Coming up on Market to Market, a South Dakota beef processor's battle with a media Goliath comes to an end. Razorback farmers drift into trouble across the Hot Springs state. And U.S. farmers reap a legal reward 6 years after planting the seed. Those stories and market analysis with Sue Martin next.
Funding for Market to Market is provided by Grinnell Mutual. You think differently about a customer when you stand in the middle of his dreams. We work to make sure you get covered right. Grinnell Mutual, a policy of working together. Information on finding an agent near you is available at grinnellmutual.com. This is the Friday, June 30 edition of Market to Market, the weekly journal of rural America.
Hello, I'm Mike Pearson. The EPA assumes the average American automobile is 10 years old. It appears last month was the end of a decade for more than one family's ride. Orders for durable goods fell 1.1% last month, flying lower on fewer aircraft purchases. Without the drag of fewer airplane orders, the purchase of new cars helped push the index 0.1% higher. The renewed confidence for the purchases of items with a longer lifespan was reflected in a rise in consumer confidence. More than one producer has gone to court after the reputation of their product was tarnished. In the 90s, cattle ranchers accused Oprah Winfrey of besmirching beef in a way that resulted in a price drop. A jury ruled her statements did not constitute libel. This week, one meat processor's battle with a news and entertainment Goliath ended differently. Peter Tubbs has the wrap-up.
A $1.9 billion lawsuit filed by a South Dakota meat producer against ABC News has ended in a settlement. Beef Products, Inc. of Dakota Dunes, South Dakota, sued ABC News over a series of stories that described BPI's lean, finely textured beef product as pink slime.
Because this former USDA scientist, now whistleblower, knows that 70% of the ground beef we buy at the supermarket contains something he calls pink slime. Beef trimmings that were once used only in dog food and cooking oil, now sprayed with ammonia to make them safe to eat, and then added to most ground beef as a cheaper filler.
The undisclosed settlement comes after 4 years of legal wrangling and 17 days of jury trial in Union County, South Dakota. BPI views the settlement as more than recovering lost profits. Throughout this process, we have again established what we all know to be true about lean, finely textured beef. It is beef and is safe, wholesome, and nutritious. This agreement provides us with a strong foundation on which to grow the business, while allowing us to remain focused on achieving the vision of the Roth and BPI family. The suit alleged that ABC, in 11 different broadcast segments and dozens of online videos and articles, knowingly reported incorrect facts about lean, finely textured beef, the process used to recover protein from the scraps generated in the butchering process, the nutritional value of the finished protein, and that consumers should be wary of the presence of lean, finely textured beef in the ground beef mixes they purchase in the grocery store. The suit also alleged that ABC intentionally created a blacklist of retail stores that sold ground beef containing lean, finely textured beef. Sales of the beef product dropped 63% in the month after the initial ABC report in March of 2012, flipping BPI's weekly finances from a $2.3 million profit to a $580,000 loss. The 3 plants BPI closed in the wake of ABC's reporting remain shuttered. Court documents allege that ABC used experts that did not have current knowledge of BPI's processes, ignored expert interviews and documentation that supported the safety and nutrition of lean, finely textured beef, and suggested that BPI's processes were approved only through corruption. ABC defended its reporting. Although we have concluded that continued litigation of this case is not in the company's interests, we remain committed to the vigorous pursuit of truth and the consumer's right to know about the products they purchase. For Market to Market, I'm Peter Tubbs.
In 2015, the International Agency for the Research of Cancer declared glyphosate a probable carcinogen. Now it appears the agency was unaware of data showing no link between the herbicide, commonly sold as Roundup, and cancer. Despite potential for change, California will require products containing glyphosate to be labeled as showing the possible connection. Monsanto, the first patent holder, has taken exception to all the claims. The proper application of farm chemicals is constantly under watchful eyes. Southern farmers are facing a possible ban on a tool in their weed-killing toolbox. Colleen Bradford-Krantz has the details.
The Arkansas officials who are considering banning dicamba herbicide for post-emergent use are getting an earful from farmers on both sides of the issue. Terry Walker, director of the state's plant board, which suggested the ban as an emergency measure, said BASF's Ingenia was the only brand of dicamba approved in Arkansas for use during the growing season. Walker said Arkansas scientists initially believed it would perform better than past formulations of dicamba used in the U.S. since the 1960s. However, regardless of comparative performance, the state still received more than 420 complaints from farmers and other landowners who believe their crops were damaged after neighbors used the herbicide. The proposed ban only takes effect if approved by both the Arkansas governor and a legislative committee. The move is generally supported by those dealing with suspected dicamba-related damage, but opposed by those who planted the new dicamba-tolerant Extend soybeans and cotton. Chad Asmus, technical marketing manager at BASF, said the company's own investigation suggests that many cases involved a failure to follow label directions. They concluded that if the chemical is applied during a temperature inversion, typically in the early evening when the air and soil cool, dicamba can turn into a gas and become trapped near the surface, moving elsewhere through the night. BASF officials said in other cases, farmers may have ignored the requirements for a downwind buffer zone or applied in winds faster than 10 miles per hour. Asmus said Arkansas officials should complete their investigation so they have all the facts before considering withdrawing an important tool from farmers who have few options with herbicide-resistant weeds. Farmers in Arkansas and other states have been searching for new herbicide options as weeds like Palmer amaranth become resistant to other chemicals. Production costs have shot up as southern farmers have been forced to hire crews to weed fields by hand. Even with a ban in place, Ingenia, as well as other brands of dicamba, would still be allowed for burn-down use in Arkansas fields or pastures between September 15th and April 15th. For Market to Market, I'm Colleen Bradford-Krantz.
For more than 2 decades, GMO crops have enjoyed increasingly larger market share. All have been approved by the FDA and EPA for use as either food or feed. There have been some bumps in the road. Starlink corn was given the nod for feed use, but the seed found its way into taco shells. After some investigation, the Centers for Disease Control found no ill effect on the public. And just receiving approval from the alphabet soup of federal agencies only signals safety, not automatic entry into foreign markets. For one seed producer, that misstep has become a costly one. John Torpy has the story.
A judge in Kansas ruled thousands of farmers were owed millions of dollars in compensatory damages by the agribusiness giant Syngenta. The case centers around genetically engineered corn sold before the broad approval was gained from all U.S. trading partners. A jury in the sunflower state sided with corn growers' claims that Syngenta's actions led to market losses for U.S. corn producers. The final award of $218 million in damages is to be split among lawyers and more than 7,000 Kansas farmers. The first of 8 class action lawsuits to be decided in the Corn Belt alleges Syngenta weakened the United States' share of the Chinese market by selling 2 strains of the GMO corn Viptera. Sales began in 2012, long before the major trading partner approved the seeds for import. The plaintiffs allege the problem began when Chinese officials started refusing some shipments of U.S. corn in 2013 after the unapproved GMO seeds were discovered in the shipments from the United States. The strains were finally approved the following year, However, the plaintiffs claim the loss of Chinese market share caused the price of corn to plummet, leaving them to suffer long-lasting economic hardship. Waiting in the wings are class action lawsuits in Arkansas, Missouri, Illinois, Iowa, Nebraska, Ohio, and South Dakota. Nationwide, losses for U.S. corn growers due to a reduction in Chinese market share have been estimated to exceed $5 billion. Syngenta is expected to appeal the decision. For Market to Market, I'm John Torpy.
Next, the Market to Market report.
The commodity markets have suffered weeks of weather doldrums, shouldered foreign bumper crops, and endured manic South American politics. The market laid down its burdens on the last session of the week as the commodity markets feasted on USDA's acreage and quarterly grain stocks reports. For the week, September wheat rocketed 11% higher, gaining 53 cents, and the nearby corn contract put on 16 cents. The data sent the bulls charging down LaSalle Street as the August soybean contract soared 39 cents. August meal rose $9.30 per ton. In the South, December cotton expanded $1.57 per hundredweight. Over in the dairy parlor, August Class 3 milk futures fell 38 cents. Despite recent bearish reports, the livestock sector saw gains as the August cattle contract added $1.02 and nearby feeders tacked on $2.98. The August lean hog contract vaulted $5.10 higher. In the currency markets, the U.S. dollar index plummeted 150 points. Crude oil increased 7% or $3.03 per barrel. COMEX gold shed $14.10 per ounce. And the Goldman Sachs Commodity Index expanded almost 19 basis points to finish the week at 372.20. Here now to lend us her insight on these and other trends is one of our regular market analysts, Sue Martin. Sue, welcome back.
Thank you, Mike.
In case you want to go over things again, you can listen to our market analysis and Market Plus podcasts online anytime at iptv.org/MTOM. Sue, we're heading for 4th of July weekend, but the market let its fireworks off a little early on Friday. We saw spring wheat, Minneapolis spring wheat, continue its incredible run up, moving, 36 cents on Friday, 40 cents?
Yeah.
We've got a question here from one of our followers on Twitter. This is from Dave in Howard, South Dakota. Dave wants to know, how high can Minneapolis spring wheat go? $15 to $20 or $8 to $15?
Well, I guess I'll take the $8 to $15 range because I don't see us going to $15, $20.
Okay.
We have a wave 4 count on Minneapolis lead contract that comes in at 842.5.
Okay.
So that's not super far away. There is also, I did a study of years when you put in a spring harvest low and you rally into June and, late May, June, making higher highs. And there is over the last, since 1970, there's been 15 of those years. And out of those years, 8 of them went on to make higher highs, moving all the way into September.
Oh.
So let's hope we're one of those. But I am concerned that a wave 4 is at 842. And yet, when you look at what's coming for heat, that crop has really, in the Dakotas, been hit hard. And, the forecast isn't giving them much better. And then on top of it, you even had some of that was also frosted even on the 26th of June.
Right.
And that seems awful late. So, and then you've got Canada with lower acres. It seems to me spring wheat, durum, hard red spring is going to be in demand. And we're going to probably maybe at some point ration this. And I'm thinking that what we're going to see is where we're going to have to fight and put acres back into the wheat market this next season. And so I'm not negative wheat. The one thing I do think is that the KC and the Chicago are starting to come to life. I thought they acted that way on Friday. And I think that the KC has a story also being written to be able to run. Now, granted, all wheat stocks went up 21%. But when you look at the hard red spring, the Minneapolis wheat the stocks were tighter there, it's in the others. But when I look at global demand for pasta and breads, Western style breads, it's growing. In China, globally, half of this crop year, about half, 49.6% of the global stocks are going to be in China. But those are inaccessible stocks. China is forecast to import about 3 million metric tons of wheat. They will probably only export 800,000 metric tons. They're the largest grower of wheat too in the world, but they use it, and the demand for Western style breads and pastas has been really growing over the last 3-4 years.
Okay.
So when I look at that, I say, okay, let's take China out of the picture because he's inelastic or inaccessible. Let's move them away. Okay, and we know that we have very large global stocks to usage ratios.
Yes.
Okay, so we take them out of the picture because we aren't going to be able to get to them, and we don't know what kind of quality their wheat really is.
That's always the question with China.
It is.
Yeah.
But then the U.S. is the world's well, not the world's largest, but we're up there for exporting wheat. Okay, if you take China out of the picture and you start looking at the rest of the foreign buyers, you now have the lowest stocks to usage ratio in 10 years. So there, it tells you that this market's going to continue to see demand, it's going to continue to grab. And you've also got Australia looking at weather issues big time there. They're projected to drop 30%, maybe 32% in production this year.
Okay.
So, and they're a big competitor of the U.S.
Yes.
So, it seems like Mother Nature's just kind of nicking away at everything around the world. So when you look at face value, it's not always what you see. There's other things there.
So we're building a bullish story in the wheat market.
Yeah.
And that sets us up. We've got a question here from one of our followers. This is from Neil in central Wisconsin. He's on Twitter at Neil Reut. He's asking if drought continues for wheat acres or if these other stories percolate a little louder, can it tug corn up to $4.50? How high would wheat need to go to get $4.50 corn?
Well, I think that we can see something better for corn.
Okay.
As a producer, if I looked at new crop corn, the only way I would be marketing new crop corn, and I know there's a lot of them saying, boy, if it gets back to $4, I'm going to sell. Well, look at today. Who would have thought that this corn market, even in a bearish report, who would have thought you would see, one, an outside range month, a higher high, lower low, and we closed higher? What's to say all of a sudden it wasn't a high in June, but a low in June? It could be. And so now where is the risk, the line of risk? It's at 374, taking out the June low.
Okay.
And if we turn now in July or whatever and take that June low out, now you've got to have attention. But we recommend buying puts. As the market's getting a little frothy here, you can maybe get those a little cheaper. You can buy short-dated November or December puts and protect yourself, floor it. We're not of the opinion that you sell the grain and then buy a call.
Okay.
And here's why. Yeah, you know exactly what you get.
Yep.
Exactly. But the problem is that might hurt as you go down the road, because if we have a weather issue this year and things aren't like they were last year, we have way more wind, lots more hail. The eastern corn belt is shallow rooted in many parts of it. And then you've got all this heat in the west. It is not Mother Nature being kind.
Right.
She's chipping away. And she chipped away at the wheat crop too. And you had the lowest planted wheat acres since 1919. So what my recommendation is if you need to sell something, buy the puts, because here's what could happen next year. We could go back to inverted basis and have a premium.
Okay.
And then if you sold your cash, you're going to miss out on that premium, and your call will come along, but it isn't going to be quite the cat's meow because the basis will go over the board. You're much better off to hang. After 5-6 years of this, there's no way I would sell my cash grain.
All right.
So with a bearish report, everybody wants to look and say, and they feel like, okay, wheat may have pulled corn and beans, and they probably did. But the bottom line is you have less acres of corn. And in South or North Dakota, they went up 12% in corn.
400,000 some acres additional corn in North Dakota.
That was a surprise for me.
Yeah.
Okay, those are, if it's hot in wheat country, it's going to be hot in corn country and bean country. South Dakota, growing in bean acres. Colorado, the far western side of the Corn Belt, Western Corn Belt, 7.7% increase. Now, where's all this heat going to be? Western Corn Belt, on up to the Dakotas. Then it was Michigan, 8.7% increase. Well, they're not, no offense to any listener for Michigan, but they're not the cat's meow this year. They were late planted.
Sure.
They may be shallow rooted as well. Crops are not looking good. So while the weather's being kind and they're not going to feel the heat in the eastern Corn Belt, and they've been catching these rains, what's going to happen if we get into August and all of a sudden Mother Nature moves that heat a little further east and they're shallow rooted? Boy, I remember 1983. Our crops, we had similar weather, and our crops matured within 3 days in August.
Gotcha. So we could be setting us up for that kind of a pop with heat in August. Now, Sue, that makes me start to wonder about soybeans. We've had a big up week, a big up day on Friday in the soybean market. Are we going to see $10 November beans here before too long?
I wouldn't underestimate that you can.
Okay.
And the report was negative as far as stocks went up 11% in beans, as it did in corn. But the acres were the surprise. They were not as big as everybody thought they'd be. I even thought they'd be 89.7.
Okay.
But here's the kicker. Remember how everybody was talking about bean acres were going to be larger than corn acres this year? And there was only 1 year that had the potential to happen, and it was 1983. And before it was all said and done, it didn't happen. They both came almost even Steven. Well, that's not the case this year. So, but what I think is in the bean market, there's one thing that nags at me, and I've mentioned this when I've been on the show oftentimes this year. We have this derivative of an 84-year cycle low that we're looking for.
Okay.
One was due in January, one potential. We hit it, rallied about 80-some cents, almost $1. But then the market fell back, took it out, so we knew that one wasn't it. Then we had one in April, and it came right on time like it should have, but we rallied about 50 cents, market fell back. And how often do you put a low in April? Not very often. And then we have one more left for this year, and it's in August. And this is a low due. It bugs me to get too friendly. What I think's happening in beans is we're seeing this lift, and I think we're killing time because we have a wave 4 count on November beans, which was seen at 922.
Okay.
There was another one that could come in at 890. July corn or beans has one at 890 as well. And then if you do year in, year out, nothing but July, you can even come up with one down around 832, 840, right in there. So I feel like the market's just rolling. I don't trust beans. I struggle. I just do not trust them.
So should producers be fairly active on marketing November beans given this 30-cent, 25-cent rally?
I think I would. If we get more of a rally, see, here's the one thing we've got to remember. While there's wheat in the Dakotas, there's a lot of beans in the Dakotas. Both states account for 14% of the nation's acreage.
Okay.
So therefore, we have to realize that's, in fact, North Dakota now is your 4th largest bean producing state.
Wow.
And so you got to give credence to what's going on and have an open mind here.
Okay.
Because we do think this market can fall back, but it does bother me with that 84-year cycle because it keeps coming in like it should, but it never sticks.
Okay.
And maybe this is the one that does.
All right. So now, Sue, let's take a look at the livestock markets. We saw surprising strength given the strength in corn. Is this just funds coming back into commodities?
Well, the way the stock market broke here recently, like the last day or so, you'd think it might be.
Yeah.
We hope. We can only hope. I think that one thing you've got is in the livestock is that we've had such good demand for proteins. It didn't matter if it was beef, pork, chicken, even fish has had a big demand. And China's very interested in fish.
Yes.
So I think that when we look at protein and we look around the world, and you know, you look at Australian weather and how dry and hot it continues to be, they're not going to be in our face very soon. And you look at New Zealand, and yeah, they might come around a little sooner, but basically, and then all of a sudden we see imports of beef coming from Brazil banned, or you know, for now. That has all been positives to help drive us, plus then the talk of exports of beef going to China. Now, granted, is it going to be a big number right away? Maybe not a right away thing. It was more psychological, but it was a step in the right direction. And you get what it tells us is for the beef producer, there's probably some better times coming down the road. Even though we're going to probably have more meat next year and what have you, I think demand's going to be growing.
All right, we're going to chew our way out of this. And Sue, if we take a look at the hog market, we saw the cutout trade over $100 for the first time since, I think, PED in 2013.
Yeah.
July contract hit $90.
Yes.
How aggressive should we be in here making some sales?
I think I would start watching. When you look at the board, you notice that the expansion ideas have been being priced into the deferred contracts.
Yes.
You can see it. But I think, the hog market this year has been a pleasant one for me. It went farther than I was going to give it credit for, but in the meantime, it might still go to 95. But here's the thing. I've been around the markets for a while, and an old seasonal in hogs used to be that you would rally and June's would make higher highs and then July would push higher, and usually you would peak out around the 8th of July.
Okay.
And that's not far away. And I'm wondering if we aren't into an old-fashioned seasonal. Plus, if pork keeps running, well then what about beef? And
Right.
packer margins are good in both.
And they're good in both. So if we get to that, if we continue to run through the 8th of July, come post 4th of July, how aggressive do you want to be selling the deferred months given that tremendous hit out through the December lean hog contract?
I know, it's that bothers me.
Yeah.
But again, I probably would be making some sales.
Okay.
But I would say that what I would do is maybe price some puts with the market running like this.
There we go.
You'll do them better. Your volatility will be
Get
in
some
there.
cost-effective risk management floor in
get
place.
some, and then see where you're at.
Okay.
Is how I would do it. And then the cash market for cattle should be higher this next week.
All right. Well, Sue Martin, thank you so much for taking the time to talk to us this week.
Thank you.
That wraps up the broadcast portion of Market to Market. However, Sue and I will keep the conversation going, including answering more of your questions during Market Plus, available in podcast and video form on our website. We've also launched our own YouTube channel. Check us out at youtube.com/market-to-market and subscribe today. You'll get notified when Market Plus and our feature stories are posted. And join us again next week when we explore how farmers are rebounding from a double whammy in the Palmetto State. So until then, thanks for watching. I'm Mike Pearson. Have a great week.
Funding for Market to Market is provided by Grinnell Mutual. You think differently about a customer when you stand in the middle of his dreams. We work to make sure you get covered right. Grinnell Mutual, a policy of working together. Information on finding an agent near you is available at grinnellmutual.com.